The first energy is the one that opens the gates to the world of matter. This is exploratory energy. When we discover something in the world, in some kind of world, through some kind of door, it is always an exploration. And therefore, the first energy has this exploratory spirit, this exploratory character. And accordingly, if this is the case, then this will often be the energy of pioneers, discoverers, and inventors. And when a person says, I am the first, there is a certain responsibility behind it. Therefore, people who have the first energy in their matrix are responsible individuals who understand where they are heading. They love to study this world, to gain self-knowledge within it, and most importantly, to understand themselves in this world, because the first energy possesses this quality. I need to study myself, I need to know myself, I need to recognize myself in this life, I need to become someone. Who am I? And these are the kinds of questions that people with the first energy ask themselves. Consequently, this exploration is very relevant to them throughout their lives. Researching oneself in this world, the path to oneself, or self-disclosure, self-development, they often realize themselves in this as well. And of course, this is a leader's energy that guides a person to this revelation if you do not have a strong character. That you also will not understand this world yourself, will not be able to discover something new, will not be able to dare, take a risk, and go into this experiment. These are people with a strong inner will, who are ready for these experiments in life, who are ready to lead others even by their own thoughts, discoveries, goals, and tasks. This is the first energy. To be the first, to discover something in this world. This is very important to them. For example, I can compare it to myself. My personality is the first energy, born on May 1st. This is my energy. I perfectly recognize in myself this pioneer who has always moved through life without thinking about it. What will happen if I go into the world with this discovery now? That is, it was important for me. I am going into the world with this discovery.
I am not asking you.
So, I go into the world with this discovery, and that's it. I take risks, and I am ready to live through these risks. This is the most important thing. This quality is very important in these people. It is important for them to discover and experience all the risks of their discovery because it requires courage, willpower, a certain character, and a desire to learn.
Do I understand correctly that according to my observations, people with the first energy, well, it's clear since this energy brings such ideas, and many of these ideas come, but often the problem is that the person does not implement them. For example, all my notebooks are filled, I have a lot of things there, whether in music, psychology, or elsewhere, but the person does not implement them. Do I understand correctly that it is very important for a person, as this is also measured, to go into the world of matter and realize it in the world of matter, rather than leaving it only at the level of their thoughts?
By the way, for the magician wonder worker, this code is called magician wonder worker, like the tarot card and essentially the code itself, the energy. Now we are talking about the universal energy of the magician wonder worker. That is, I also call it the energy I am. There is even such a mantra when you need to come to yourself, come to your senses, come to unity with yourself. You need to recite the mantra I am. Well, precisely, for example, recite the mantra I am. And this energy corresponds to the mantra I am. And when we close our eyes and say I am, we enter a state of being ourselves. Because sometimes people become disconnected from themselves, they don't feel their own presence. This is all a downside. The first ones probably don't believe in themselves. All of this remains at the level of, as you say, notes, at the level of thoughts, but not at the level of action, not at the level of risks. Because essentially action is how it should be. There is still some kind of risk and responsibility. Whether it will work out or not, doubts only get in the way. Therefore, people are very energetic and risky. They are like this because of their nature. Let's put it this way, energetic and inherently risky.
The main downside of the first energy, let's say maybe the main plus and the main minus, right? How would you describe it? And what should people with the first energy pay attention to?
Well, by the way, The downside is precisely that you don't feel this I am within yourself. You have not discovered yourself. You have not understood your essence. You live according to someone else's rules, perhaps influenced by an unconscious public opinion. Yes, this collective unconscious affects you. And you do not try yourself, do not engage in self-development, and are not interested in it. Occupied only with everyday material concerns such as how to live, how to raise children, and how to provide for oneself. How in this life, essentially, to make ends meet to a certain extent. And so, when a person comprehends only this world in such a material sense, only in one plane of the world, how to live in this world well and earn something, somehow position themselves only from the point of view of the world of matter and society to become someone in this society. By the way, the first energy has a lot of ambition. These are ambitious people. As a rule, they feel very bad and fall into depression if they do not achieve anything in society. That is, they must definitely become someone in the world of matter. It is important to ensure their material well-being very, let's say, well, and if they fail, they fall into depression, lose motivation, stop believing in themselves, or start raising their ambitions even higher. At a level, as they say, well above the level of other people, they also suffer from this. Their relationships fall apart. So this is all a downside of the first energy. Or, for example, a person attributes all discoveries to themselves. They have many thoughts. They invent well. They have many creative ideas. But they attribute all of this not to a divine level of consciousness, but specifically to their ego. And if he attributes to his ego, considers himself exceptional and unique, his fate also collapses. These are also the downsides of the first code. So when the knowledge of the matrix of fate came to me, before that I had a very extensive practice of I am a guide. That is, I had a Reiki practice. I had a practice where I entered a channel with higher forces, teachers, and wrote amazing poems during my meditation. In other words, I had a habitual state of I am a conduit. And when the method came to me, I also understood that I am a conduit, and this ego of my first code of destiny dissolved in my meditations, in this spiritual understanding that I am a conduit. So it helped me.
I understand. And this is a magician wonder worker. This magic and wonder working, how would you describe it as well? People with the first energy tell me that in their lives you shouldn't anger or upset them, because otherwise they easily smooth things over and easily direct their arrows, so to speak. And this also concerns the materialization of what a person wants. How would you explain this magician wonder worker? And also, maybe, if you feel it's necessary now, in comparison with the 18th energy, which is also the energy of magic, they are different. And what is the difference in their magic?
The magician wonder worker has a very powerful materialization of his thoughts. And if a person truly has an unrefined ego, they can, with their thoughts, if they are negative, if they are directed towards destruction, towards their ambitions, towards their ambitious goals, they can jinx and remove an enemy from their path. But actually, later on, this person will still suffer according to the boomerang principle of karma, right? If he becomes aware of why certain things come to him after some time, and what negative things come to him, and for what reason. But a magical past always exists for a miracle-working mage. This is also important to understand. That is, every person who is born a mage wonder worker had a magical past. In other words, in their past incarnations, their soul accumulated magical experience. Not every person, having come into this life, decides to return to their magical experience and begin to study themselves from the perspective of magic and miracle working. That is, as I said, this is again a downside of the first energy if one does not do this. In other words, the person just lives an ordinary material life. But a person is not born on the first day by chance. Again, we are born. Our soul comes into this life on certain dates, with energy precisely according to the experience accumulated from past incarnations. And if you see a person born on the first day, they definitely had, a magical experience in the past. But whether he returned to it in this life or not, remembered it or not, realized it or not, knows it or not, we do not know. That is, it depends on each person how they develop, how they position themselves, self-aware, and whether they are interested in this. It happens that he suffered for a magical experience and then he will simply be afraid of it. So if you tell him about magic, about something mystical, he will say, no, none of that exists. For example, I don't go into that. I've closed that topic for myself in this life. I understand. Yes, you also asked me about the 18th energy. Well, yes, if you want to compare, it's interesting. So the 18th energy has more of a magical experience. Through visualization, through such a subtle connection directly with the world of the universe, with the world of planets, with the world of the moon and lunar magic. So it's on a planetary scale. And the mage miracle worker has such practical magic. It might even be almost like village magic when he works well with the energy of the earth. For example, I have often seen miracle working mages who know how to work with the energies of the elements of nature. That is, shamans. They beat the drum, work with the energy of the earth, and work with the energy of fire, with some applied things related to what you can, feel and touch like this. They know how to work with such denser matter, with the physical body specifically, with people and their bodies. Penetrate these magical things through the layers of matter, dense. And the moon, it is more delicate, it is refined, it is an energy that is not like the material energy of a magician. That is, as I say, their magic is more connected with the moon, with lunar, with such planetary cycles.
Well, and as I would say now, you tell me your opinion that yes, I also feel that the first energy is more about the world of matter, the 18th is more about departure, and somewhere I would even say about the atmosphere and meanings. I would explain using the example of Victor Tsoi. He has the entire right side as 9.18, including the money channel and so on, and it's like he has this magic. If you listen to his lyrics, it's just magic, the atmosphere and so on. This is not quite... I just remembered, for example, the guitarist Yuri, who was in the band Kino. I don't know what energies he had, but roughly speaking, it seemed more like he could do magic with his hands. And Victor Tsoi is more about creating a kind of magical atmosphere. Well, that's how I feel it.
It is crucial for the magician wonder worker to perform magic through their hands, through actions, through material deeds. And the moon can simply work its magic through thoughts, subtle vision, and feelings. And the mage miracle worker needs to perform a ritual, take something, hold some kind of staff, beat a drum, ring bells, some bowls. Perform a series of physical actions with your hands to make the magic happen. Lunar mages sometimes sit in meditation, connect, see their reflection of the moon before their eyes or in their subtle sensations, and perform their magic on the mental screen in their visualization. Although these and those know how to work with rituals and ceremonies, for the magician they are more earthly.
About this evolutionary story you mentioned in the interview, this feature of the first energy, that it interacts with others, it causes evolution. Here, explain this process a bit more. How does it work? It turns out that any person with the first energy, like you, inevitably leads me to evolution when interacting with another person, like me, because our compatibility results in 19...
Neighboring energy, that is, when we take that theory and look at it, what if neighboring energy is evolutionary for a person? Suppose I am a unit, and for me, evolution is a 2, the second energy. Then any person with a unit, when combined with me, brings me out, helps me feel this second energy, that is my evolution. In other words, he is an evolutionary personality for me, with whom I will be able to better carry out certain life processes, thoughts, thinking processes, create and produce something. I also think that this is an interesting topic, and on one hand, well, there's no need to get fixated on it, but still, it is interesting. If such people happen to enter the course of your life, you can at least track your own feelings.
I would say that it's interesting here, by the way. Well, you like such observations. It's great that you noticed that you shouldn't get stuck on this, because after our interview, some people came, oh, so my next evolutionary number is this, and I say, guys, deal with the current numbers first, then you can look at the evolutionary ones. So it's more interesting in the context of, for example, I interact with you, yes, what I feel, and so on, because I get 19, so these are my evolutionary numbers, and so on, well, in this context.